Let me get my timer going, because otherwise I'll be talking all day. I'll just keep on going. All right. Okay. So today, what I wanted to talk about is the soul's purpose. You know, I realized something, which is that when I talk, the thing I like talking about most is always about our life from the soul's level of understanding. So that we get out of the world's level of understanding, the level of effects. And I love talking about the soul. In fact, that's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about and speaking about and teaching about is, what is your soul saying? And I know that one of the things that the soul says is that we all have a purpose. Now, what's interesting is that we all go through life, we all start life, we learn the ways of the world, we can't help but not do that, and we come to think that that is what life is, what we can see and touch, taste, hear, the five senses, that is the world. But there comes a time for most people, maybe all people in some ways, but many people, most people, where there is a realization that that's not everything, that there is something more than that. And just that one thought, that there might be something more than what my five senses tells me there is the start of the journey. It's the seed. And that is the spiritual journey. That is actually the moment in our lives, and some people get that very young, and some people don't get that till near the very end or someplace in the middle. But whenever it is, that's the moment when we actually are listening to the soul within. That's the moment we can hear it, because that is always the soul that is saying that to you. You're here for a purpose. There's something more for you. Now, I've been working at the level of the soul with myself, with others for years and years now, and one thing I've noticed is that the soul, which is so beautifully individualized as each one of us, seems to have certain themes. Like the soul doesn't say one thing to you and a different thing to you. There seem to be commonalities in what the soul is telling us. That makes sense, right? Because if there is only one, then it would make sense that the message, which we might hear differently, ultimately, though, is the same message. These are what I would call the soul essentials, the essential ideas that the soul wants you to know as you go through this thing called the spiritual path, discovering your spiritual purpose. And I thought today I wanted to talk about what some of those soul essential ideas are through the journey of our spiritual life. And I'm going to use, to help me with those, the book that I'm using right now in life, because I can't teach what I'm not experiencing itself. And so the book I'm using devotionally in my life, in my spiritual practice, is a book called Start Where You Are by Mira Lee Patel. And I love this book. I initially got it because it's a fun book, and I like fun. I want fun. If I'm going to do spiritual practice at, blankety blank time in the morning, I want it to be at least fun. And this is fun. What she is, she's an artist, so she's taken famous quotes and ideas, and she, on the left side of the page, she beautifully illustrates that quote, and they're gorgeous. And then on the right side of the page, she has a little exercise to help you embody that quote so that it becomes something that you live. And I love that kind of stuff. That is so up my alley. And what seemed like it was going to be just a fun little book has ended up being a very deep journey into the soul through this. And I'm going to highlight some of the soul essential ideas and use this book to help me with the example. And the first one, of course, the first place where we begin, once we have that seed of thought from the soul, that there's something more. The soul, first thing it will say to you is, start where you are. Here's the quote, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Any guesses What famous person said that quote, by the way? No guesses? Arthur Ashe, the great tennis player, said that quote. And he certainly lived that quote. What's great is that on the surface, that sounds like a really, sure, start where you are, that makes sense. But on the soul level, what it's saying is there is nothing that you are lacking right now in your life to begin this journey. Whatever it is your purpose, whatever it is that you want in your life, there is nothing that you are lacking at this moment to begin. Nothing. In fact, it goes on to say everything that is in your life right now, whether you like it or not, is here to use. Use what you have. It doesn't say only use the things that you like. It says use what you have. That means everything. And then it says do what you can. The word do is an action word. It doesn't say sit back and let somebody else do it for you. It says do what you can. And it says what you can. You don't have to do every single thing. You don't have to force or push. Just do what you can. That's how we begin. Whether this is your first day hearing that soul's message or this is your 35th year of hearing it, it doesn't matter because every day is new. Ernest Holmes says in The Science of Mind, every day is new and each day I am newly awakened in it, he said. And that's what this is. Every morning, start where you are. Use what you have already and do what you can. Which leads us to the next thought, which is this, and I'm going to cover this. Think of who might have said this. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. Any ideas who might have said that? The person who said this certainly knew what he was talking about. See, the thing is with words, and this is what Reverend Devine was talking about when quoting The Game of Life with the power of words, is anybody can say those words. You can go up and down the street and say to people, would you repeat these words? May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. And it will mean nothing. But when somebody who has lived it so fully and become an identity of those words says it, it means everything. And this person was Nelson Mandela who said that. He certainly lived that. So when somebody like him says it, we know that he has lived those words, and now we can hear it at that soul level. May your choices reflect your hopes, not your fears. One of my favorite stories, and I told it here a couple years ago, is the story of Dr. Arlene Bump. She's a minister of a center like this down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And she happened to be visiting California, and while she was in California, a hurricane came and destroyed that whole area and damaged pretty greatly her center. So she flew back from California, and it was difficult to get from the airport to her house to the center because there were trees in the streets, and it was just chaos, and there was not a lot of electricity. It was just chaos after the hurricane. But she made it to her center. And she got out of her car and she walked up to the front door of her center. And just as she was about to go in to see what was going on, and she knew that there were some people in there that were trying to help it, she saw that the roof had been torn off in places, and she knew that there was all this chaos inside. And right before she walks in the door, she hears that voice, that same voice. And it said, who's entering this center? Who's walking through this door? And in her mind, she answered that voice. She said, it's me, Arlene. And the voice said, who is walking through that door? Fear or faith? And she knew at that moment, she shifted. She moved out of it and she thought, that's right, I'm going to walk in as faith. So she stopped what she was doing. She went right into spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, so that she, all the way through, filled with alignment of the truth of Spirit itself, and she got clear. She walked through that door with faith, so that when the people that were there who needed help and support saw her, they didn't see the fear, they only saw faith, because that's who she became. Now, I love that story, but I used that story in my own life a number of years ago when I worked for a boss who was complicated, shall we say, just in case she happens to be listening to this. Wonderful person. She was very complicated. And one day she called me to her office. Now, this is one of those office buildings in New York City that's, huge. And I worked at one end of the building, and she worked at the other. And it was one of those buildings that was an entire New York City block. So I leave my office, and I'm like, oh, God, what am I going to do? And I'm walking, and I'm going down to her office thinking, she sounded really angry on the phone. And so I was trying to solve it in my head. And then I remembered that story. And I literally stopped in the hallway. And I thought, wait, who's walking down to this woman's office? Fear or faith? I know what I believe. Now is the time to use it, apply it in my life. And I stopped and I went right into prayer treatment. And from that point on to the rest of the hallway down to her office, I was in prayer treatment. So by the time I walked through her door, the hurricane that was called my boss, I was clear. I had not an ounce of fear in me. And not only that, when I walked in, she could tell. It was a different meeting than if I had not done that, if I had not taken these principles, these ideas, and applied them in the moment. Not only did we have a different experience of that meeting, it shifted our entire relationship for the entire rest of the time that she worked at the company. Fear or faith? So that leads us to the next thought on the spiritual journey as we go through. Now, I never know how to pronounce this guy's name. He wrote The Little Prince. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry? Say that again. Exupéry. He wrote The Little Prince, and this is a great quote of his. He said this: If you want to build a ship, don't dream up. Let me start again. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. Isn't that good? I sat with that one for a long time. What I've been doing is I've been taking, there's dozens of them in here, and every day I take one, and I go down to the soul level to see what is this saying. Now, on the surface level, we can get what it's saying. It's saying, if you have a vision or a dream that you want people to help you with, don't just say, hey, I want you to do this, and I want you to do this, and I want you to do this. Instead, inspire them with the vision of what it is that you want. Inspire them with the vision of why you are doing it. And that's awesome. But when I went to the soul level of this quote, this is what I got. It said, this is not about other people. Because, see, for other people to be inspired, rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. In order to do that, the first thing that needs to happen is that you need to long for the immensity of the sea. See, that's the point. It's when you have a vision, when you have a purpose that you want to go toward, it's never about anybody else. It's always about you living it to the point where you will do all of it yourself if you have to. Joyfully, gladly, all of it. Because you are so in love with it. You are so in love, you are so longing for the endless immensity of the sea of your vision that it doesn't matter what else happens because you're in it. Paradoxically, when you are in that place, people show up. You don't have to force or ask at all. They show up gladly, willingly, excitedly, because they want what you have. They want to long as well. They can see that you are longing for that immense sea within, and they want it too. So, when we do that, what happens next is this. This is a great quote. It says, wisdom means to choose now what will make sense later. And this person said, I am learning every day to allow the space between where I am and where I want to be to inspire me and not terrify me. Any ideas who might have said that? Who? Oprah. Oprah, let's face it, Oprah could have said all of these, frankly. No, this one was said by a wonderful actress. I happen to love this actress. Her name is Tracee Ellis Ross. And she's on that TV show Blackish, which, and I love this book because it's not just people like the Nelson Mandelas of the world, which is fabulous, but it's real people, too, who are learning the principles and applying them and get to be our examples in everyday life. She's a wonderful person and wonderful example, and what she says here is true. Wisdom means to choose now what later will make sense, what will make sense later. That is a concept that we know on the spiritual path. Abraham Hicks, the teacher Abraham Hicks, calls that pre-paving. Abraham Hicks says, if what you want, you think is right over there, and we know that what we do today is going to determine our experience tomorrow, then do today something toward that thing. You know what's funny? I didn't press start. All right. All right. It's all bets are off now. I'm telling you. Start where you are. Right, start. All right. Oh, Lord. Pre-pave. So if we know that the truth is what we do today, how we think, how we behave, what we choose today determines tomorrow's experience, we are pre-paving tomorrow today. Now, here's the thing. If what I want is over there, then I want to pre-pave, so I want my actions and beliefs and thoughts to go toward that. This is where fear versus faith comes in. Because fear will not take me there. Fear will pre-pave. If I want that and I'm in fear, I'm pre-paving myself this direction. I am going backwards. The exact opposite of what I say I want, but I'm in fear, so I'm pre-paving it. The wisdom means to choose now what will make sense later. And she goes on to say, every day to allow the space between where I am and where I want to be, that space in between, to inspire me and not terrify me. It is so easy to get terrified on the spiritual path. It really is. It can be so terrifying at times because we are living open. We are open to everything. When you are open to everything, we might be tempted to see the boogie men and the hobgoblins along the way, but the truth is, there's a concept that matches this in spiritual sacred texts all around the world, including the Bible, which says, between the dreaming and the coming true. And what that means is, when you have the dream of what you want, and before it comes true, everything you do between now and then matters. Everything. So as we walk forward and pre-pave in faith, we will not be sidetracked by fear. We will not be sidetracked by anything that would stop us. And as we go forward to the next thought, the next thing on the soul's journey, this is so amazing. This one is so amazing. I'll just tell you, it's a literary novelist named David Foster Wallace, and this is the quote: "You get to decide what to worship." You get to decide what to worship. Now let me tell you what that means. What that means is this. A few years ago, I was walking from my house to the train station in my town to get to work. Now I have a beautiful walk. I walk from my house past a country club, through a park, over a stream. It's beautiful. Birds and trees and all this stuff. It's great. But that day, I had a busy day. I had meetings. I had very difficult people. I had some problems I needed to solve at work. And so by the time I left the house and closed the door, my head was already at work. You know, I'm trying to think and I'm solving things. And anybody else do that? Yeah, okay, good. I thought for a minute maybe I'm the only one. And that would be a very vulnerable moment for me. But now that I know that you all share that, we are in it together. So I'm leaving the house, walking to the train station in my head. And as I'm walking, I get about halfway, and that voice, notice the voice keeps coming up. The voice starts to say something, and I'm pushing it away because I'm trying to get to the train station, and I'm squelching, is that a word? Squelching down that voice, silencing it, and it keeps popping up. And so finally I thought to myself, just stop and hear what this voice has to say. So I stopped halfway in the park, and the voice started speaking to me, and what it said was so beautiful. I literally stood there. I got out a pen and paper, and I literally stood there and wrote down what it said, and it said this. It said, while you were walking to work, complaining in your head about your job, complaining about some aches and pains in your body and about some issues you have with people, did you notice that today the temperature is your favorite temperature for a day? Now, I happen to have a favorite temperature. It's right in the low 70s. I love that, right when it's warm, but it's not hot yet, but it's not too cold to chill. I love that. And it said, did you notice that the temperature was your favorite temperature and that today is perhaps the most beautiful day yet in all of creation? And it said, while you were walking to work complaining in your head, did you hear the sounds all around you? The birds. That there is life everywhere? And while you were walking to work complaining in your head, did you realize that your heart is working perfectly? That your digestion is working perfectly? That your whole body is alive with life on your behalf? And while you were walking to work complaining in your head, did you notice that you had a job to go to, which provides you with so many gifts? And while you were walking to work complaining in your head, did you notice, by the way, that there's a park that you were walking through filled with play and leisure to remind you to bring balance into your life? And while you were walking to work complaining in your head, did you notice that building right there, which is a library filled with sacred works and wisdom and study, which are my favorite things to do in the world? And while you were walking to work complaining in your head, did you notice when you left your house the looks of love on the faces of the people you left there, and that they are already longing for you to come home? And when you left for work today complaining in your head, did you notice that right now, this moment, everything is good? And it said, did you notice this morning me tapping on your shoulder, pointing up to the sun which was shining as if only for you? And did you notice, while you walked to work, complaining in your head, that I was trying to remind you that these are not responsibilities. These are really opportunities to serve. And that these aches and pains that you complain about are to remind you to notice your body, take care of it, and appreciate it. While you were walking to work, complaining in your head, did you notice any of these things? We get to decide what we worship in the day. I was worshiping my job, the fear, the dread, but life was trying to remind me that I get to worship joy. I get to worship the present moment. I get to worship opportunities, endless possibilities, that life really is available to all of us, which takes us to the next soul essential idea, which is a great one, and that is, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. Who said that? Anybody know? This is the Dalai Lama who said this one. When you lose, don't lose the lesson. See, a lot of times we do the same thing over and over again. We get in a headspace. We have the same relationships with people over and over again. Their faces may change, but it's the same relationship. And we say, why can't I have something different? Why does it always seem to work out this way? Why do I always seem to get in the same fight with people? Why do I always have the same relationship with my parents? Why? And we feel like it's a loss, a lose, a fail. And what the spiritual path says, what the Dalai Lama says, what your soul says is, it's only that way if you stop there. But if you take it deeper and go to that soul level, and you see it differently, then you see the lesson behind it, which allows you to have a different experience of it, which in turn gives you a different experience of life. Which leads us to the next statement. This is from Maurice Sendak. He's the children's author and illustrator, Where the Wild Things Are. And this is his line. At first reading, it says this: live your life, live your life, live your life. And if that's all we did with it, that's a great thing. Live your life, live your life, you live your life. But I took that to the soul level and I said, what does that mean deeper? And instantly what I got was this: live your life. Live your life. Live your life. See, live is an action word. Live means don't stay in the house. Don't close yourself off from life itself. Be out there. Living means that you are out there engaged in your own life and engaged in the world, engaged with other people. Living is a very powerful action word. Living your life. We don't have to live the life that someone else wanted for ourselves, and we don't have to live anyone else's life. We don't have to give other people great ideas on how they can live their life. We get to stay in our own lane. Live your life. Live your life. Life, creation all around us. Here, available all the time. Live your life. Live your life. Live your life. And that takes us to this. This is Charles Dickens. Have a heart that never hardens, and a temper that never tires, and a touch that never hurts. To which point I say, really? You know, you have not met my family. You have not met some of the people I work with. It sounds good. This is one of those great statements that sounds really nice. You could put it on a bumper sticker, you know, have a heart that never hardens, have a temper that never tires, and a touch that never hurts. Yeah, why not? Yeah, until somebody cuts me off in the street and in the car, and that's like, I won't do it. But when you take this to the soul level, and when I did that, the soul said, there is nothing else but this. See, remember when we start where we are, use what you have. What we said was that meant everything in your life. Everything. It meant the debt that you might have. It meant the job that you might hate or the job that you might not have and want. It meant those people that are bothering you, that are making you angry. It meant all of those things. It might mean health issues, whatever it is. And what this says is have a heart that never hardens. What that means at the soul level is all those things that are happening in your life, don't let any of them harden that heart of yours. That's a spiritual practice. That is a spiritual call directly from your soul. Whatever happens in your world, don't let it harden your heart. That sounds good until you try to do it. And a temper that never tires. Instead of having something happen to us and we react to it, we calmly listen to it and we act from it instead of react to it. And a touch that never hurts, allowing ourselves to go to that place within that cannot be hurt, that soul place. This is the soul's journey in a nutshell. Not letting your heart get hard, not letting your passions sabotage you, and not letting yourself be hurt by the outside world, which leads us to the end, the last, and of course this is the most important one. This is, I am not afraid. I was born to do this. I am not afraid. I was born to do this. Any ideas who might have said that? Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga. No. She said something similar, right? It is a saint. She was burned at the stake. Joan of Arc. Awesome. Yay. Give her a hand for that. Certainly Joan of Arc knew what she was talking about with this statement, but what this means is the I am. We know in the spiritual world, whenever you say the words I am, everything that follows it becomes yours because you are claiming it. The great I am is who you are. I am not afraid. I was born to do this. So when we start, that very first whisper that we hear on the spiritual path that says there is something more, what it leads to ultimately through all of these ideas is it leads to this place that says, I was born to do this. We might have suspected that at the beginning, but at a certain point on the spiritual path, we get to know it. It becomes so true for us that we don't doubt it anymore. I was born for this. And when we do that, that becomes the compass through all the things that we do throughout the day. We get to embody it fully. Now here's the thing. Tomorrow we wake up and we start all over again. Start where you are. Wherever you are in your life, whatever path you are in, whatever is showing up in your life, whatever it is that is present for you, whatever is the yearning for your soul, let's start right here where you're at, right in this place. And know that we can welcome everything as part of the journey past it to the thing that it is that we already are. And so right now I'm going to close with a prayer treatment so that we can take these soul essential ideas and we can experience them and live them in our life. And we move right now just to that level of the soul. It's one breath deeper. So take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and know that right here in this place, the soul level of your life, this is where we should start and can start every single day of our life. And it's at this place that we are told, do not be afraid. You don't need anything other than what you already have. You don't need to do more than you can because you are already the gift of life. That purpose that was instilled in you from birth, from before birth, is now present. And in this moment, this is the time. You are the person that creation has called forth for that very special purpose. And that is the place right now where we fully identify ourselves. We completely allow that to be our truth. And when we do, we are living in faith, not fear. We are coming from a place of possibility. And we know that our spiritual path of allowing ourselves to go through life so that we are wide open, so that we are moving forward, so that we become the light that we wish to see in this world. That we are now ready to say yes to that in a way that is even more than we ever have before. That's where we are at this moment, at a yes. So that we are that spiritual journey, personified and embodied as ourselves. So right now I just declare for each one of us that the way is made clear, that we now move forward so powerfully, so wonderfully, so joyously, and that we remember today in a way we've never remembered before, that life is ours, that life is for us, and that we get to choose what we worship today. We choose to worship life. And we pass that along to everyone we see. And tomorrow we get to do it again. And right now we let this go, knowing that life supports us in this journey. That our soul supports us. And is so happy that we are now listening more deeply. We release this. We love it. We embrace it and let it go to life, right here and right now. And together we say, and so it is.